The secret word is Sedgwick. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Say Report. I'm your host, Devon Decker, and joining me, my host companion and brother in Christ, Sejohn Sarawik. Sejohn.
Yeah, that's the problem with Christmas, is too many people have forgotten what it's truly about.
Honestly, I this is way off. Like, we don't have an outline for the show, right? We don't. We just kind of jump in and start recording, and hopefully something fun comes out. I know I have topics. Sejohn has topics. We're going to start right now with the Santa Clauses.
Okay.
We're going to start with the Santa
where you were
Clauses.
Going, and I was going to say, we might not have outlines, but we do have guidelines.
That's right. We're going to start with the Santa Clauses, the follow-up TV series to the Tim Allen 1994 classic, The Santa Claus.
But Devin, I thought Tim Allen was canceled. I thought that he was not allowed it. I thought Disney was done working with him. That's everything I heard about him after Toy Story.
Oh, I thought
Lightyear.
I thought it was Last Man Standing. I don't know. I don't understand why it is, but you know what? Christmas is canceled. Tim Allen is canceled. Together, I guess it is a double negative, and they can
cancel each other
and thrive. We cancel each other out, and then we'll get Cal Penn. He worked for Obama, but I have only seen the first episode of the Santa Clauses, and I will watch more. But I was making a joke about the brother in Christ thing, and then like, oh, this is how I can make it work. Is the Christmas of it all. The fact of the matter is, right now, as we start recording, I have been up for 58 minutes. That is the least amount of time from me waking up to sitting in front of this microphone that I think has ever happened in Say Report history.
It explains the energy level, actually.
Okay, cool. I'm a little manic, and I've been drinking cinnamon honey tea again, and we know what happened last time. Listener, you don't, but Sejohn does. Let's hope I can keep my Oshkosh Bagosh overalls on this time. But the crazy thing about the Santa Claus is only watching the first episode. First episode is fucking weird.
I could have told you that was going to be a thing. The whole concept's really weird. I mean,
I don't know anything about it. I know nothing going in. I just know that it's a follow-up to those movies.
But you've seen the movies, though, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so conceptually, the whole idea of he needs to find a new Santa Claus, but we know what the old Santa, you know what you have to do once I hire you. Your first job is you've got to kill me.
I think they just have to put the code on. I think they fake it too. I think it's an elaborate scheme. It's basically the Dread Pirate Roberts to reference something that is beloved, not just by the Say Report, but by the world. I think it's one of those situations. And also, like, calling it now. 4 episodes are out, so I don't know if it's been hinted at. Cal Penn going to be the new Santa Claus, and that'll be fun, right? I can't wait to read Twitter in 2 Wednesdays, if Twitter still exists, right? If there were ever wishing for the demise of Twitter, it'd be that. But the craziest thing about the episode, that's not true. The craziest thing about the episode is that there are 2 elves, and they are played by actual children. Like, yes. I'd say 12 to 14-year-old children. And the first time that they interacted with each other, one of them is Santa's best friend, Noel, and the other one is Joy, who, like, runs mission controls. Essentially Ed Harris from fucking Apollo 13.
Right.
If he were married to Kevin Bacon from Apollo 13. In, like, just a lot of ways. I'm making Tom Hanks Santa Claus. It works with the Toy Story connection. Just try to follow along, class. They had their first interaction, and I looked at the screen and I said, "Oh, they are elf fucking." Now I don't know what elf fucking is. Do you? I mean, is it just fucking, but you're elves?
Well, so my question is do you have to be elf married to be elf fucking, or is it okay? Like, are they down with it being okay outside of marriage?
I don't know anything about elf Jesus. I've never read the elf Old Testament, so. I don't know how the elf god feels about non-consensual sex. I kind of feel like marriage is something that would have been brought to the elves by the humans, if I have to be completely honest about it. But it was weird because, like, very clearly these 2 children are like hyper sexualized, and I'm like, oh, they're elf fucking. Like, that's just the fact. And everybody, it was one of those moments where we paused what we were watching, everybody glared at me and like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why would you say that? And I'm like, it's what's happening. I just need to say it's what's happening, and that's how I feel in this moment. Everybody else has been sharing their feelings. This is my feeling right now about the Santa Clauses.
Devin, I'm just being honest. No, that's not it.
But then the scene ends and it's revealed that they're married and cohabitate. So, like, I read the scene correctly. They probably shouldn't have directed it like, oh, these two kids, they're fucking, right? Think about that for a second. Walt Disney
Nobody
Plus.
else did, Dev.
I'm sure other people did. Whatever. That was, and honestly, that was the best scene of the show because it was like, it made sense, and I like cared about their little elf relationship and everything. Also, putting elf relationship, I really feel very segregation-y. Like, their relationship is no different from us because they are elves. I don't know. I've studied a lot of religions. I really need to study the elf histories. I guess I'll have to get out the Silmarillion again. Probably the life and times
I need to
of Father
clarify something
Christmas.
for people out there who may or may not have seen a fucking stitch of this show, besides saw a preview with Peyton Manning and thought, I don't need to watch this.
I didn't even know Peyton Manning was going to be in it.
I need to know right now if you keep saying elf whatever because this is something they do like the fucking Smurfs, or if you are just applying that adjective to everything.
Oh, I'm just applying that adjective to everything.
Okay.
That's a Devon
So the
Decker
call
thing.
out about I don't know why elf relationships are called that was just to you. You were just calling yourself out
I was
on
calling
that.
myself out on it. Yeah. It's like, Devin, you need to, if in order to be better.
This is it, folks. This is 1 hour between wake up and record time for Devon Decker.
If we're going to be better, Sejohn, we have to identify and fix our flaws. Generally, we don't do that with a microphone in front of our faces, but that's what we're doing today. But yeah, but the weirdest thing about the whole Santa Clauses thing, the reason why I decided, oh, this is a pretty good rant to go on 7 minutes into the episode, is that they're like, oh no, if Santa loses his magic, that could be the end of Christmas forever. And like, in my head, right? So this is a world where we know that Santa Claus exists, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, Mother Earth, Father Time, Jack Frost, like, creatures exist in this world, right? My mind, if it were like Family Guy, it would be one of the smash cuts to Jesus, like just alone at his birthday party being like, yeah, because there ain't no other reason for the season but Santa Claus.
I do love that they've established over the various films in this series a really deep cryptid lore for this universe.
Yeah, it's some crazy shit. And it's, I mean,
and they're not all good, right? Like, I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen the Jack Frost one with Martin Short. Because let's be honest, I don't know if I've ever had the drive to see it more than once.
I love that one. It's my favorite because it's a wonderful life and there's time travel and.
Yeah, but he is rather mischievous, right? Like, that is like his whole like shtick. And so like that idea that like malice exists within these creatures is terrifying. These god creatures.
Oh yeah, well they're no better than us. They're basically American gods. Call out. But yeah, it's like I get really tired. I don't know. I think it was Rankin and Bass. I'm gonna blame Rankin and Bass because I don't think they can come fight me about this blaming.
Even if they did, you'd be able to win.
Yeah, because they made a claymation. I just like you
yeah,
crushed. Devon
Kick your ass, you stop motion,
victorious.
motherfucker.
I can also beat everybody in Clay Fighter, just with my foot. Even bad Mr. Frosty, come get some.
Oh man!
But
and we've lost him. All right.
But I blame Rankin and Bass and all of their Christmas specials with this thing where like, oh, if there's no Santa Claus, there's no Christmas. Like, I mean,
yeah. They did literally have a movie called "The World Without a Santa Claus."
The Year Without a Santa Claus.
Yeah, but it was a depressing time for sure.
Oh yeah, like it's like it doesn't feel like Christmas. Oh, you're right. I guess it's just another day. It's just another Tuesday. Like, it's just so weird to me. This, like, mythological... I mean, first of all, I have an issue with Propaganda Claus, as I call the modern representation of Santa Claus, and the fact that it fully exists as a means to, like, drive commercialism and all of this other, like, nonsense and problems. But, like... to see it in 2022 and it'd be like, Christmas will be over if Santa loses his magic. It's like, really? First of all, Silmarillion is what I was going to call it. Saturnalia existed long before the Bible became the hot-selling book and everybody decided, let's just base our lives on Harry Potter lore.
I want to defend Rankin Bass here for just a moment, though, because I do feel like what we're actually talking about is a bastardization of what they were trying to do in those stories, which is a very traditional, like, folktale story. This is getting way too serious, and I'm not meaning it to be, but this idea being that, think about like Tinkerbell, right? Where it is the power, it is those that believe in her that give her that power, and it is the same thing with Santa. It's not that without Santa we cannot have Christmas, but because we are not being Christmassy enough, Santa is somehow getting like sick and like is not able to do his shit. And so it's this weird implication that it is because people on Earth have stopped being Christmassy enough, Santa is kind of losing his oomph, right? And this weird idea that it's the flip reverse of that is like, no. It's Santa himself that you've got to keep alive. Let's get him on life support so that we don't lose Christmas is a very weird way of looking at it. And it feeds into what you're talking about, this idea of like aiming him towards commercialization, right?
Yeah. I mean, especially, I think one of the reasons why the Grinch really appeals to me is because of the fact that the Grinch, in his infinite wisdom, is like, oh shit, all the stuff I thought Christmas was about is not what Christmas is about. Like, there's no Santa Claus in the Grinch, right? And that's and that's kind of cool in this fact that like, no, they're just spending money hand over fist. Like, I have to imagine that. I mean, we all know that Theodore Gesell had his demons, right? And,
yes, his deep dark demons that he dealt with on a regular basis. But yeah.
So like, but it's this really interesting story where it's like, if you strip away all of this commercialism, like, Christmas is a feeling. It's not just about toys and all this other stuff. And it's like, but that doesn't really seem like the fact. I mean, in both Grinch remakes, they're initially pretty pissed off that all of their toys and things are gone. It's not just like the original unbastardized version of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. They're like, you know what though? I really like about today is when we all get together and sing in perfect harmony.
And and like in the Ron Howard one, there's this idea of like trying to make it more like you know, there's this turnabout of everybody realizing what the magic of Christmas is. So yeah, it really enforces this idea that like that is what exists. It's a weird. You know what our Christmas specials really need, Devon? Some more gritty realism. That's what Ron Howard said. He came in and he was like, "Where's the dark remake of the Grinch?
We need a grim, dark Grinch film." It's like, I mean,
I need Jim Carrey to come in and creep the fuck out of Sejohn for the rest of his life.
Oh man, I gotta tell you though, I'm really glad we covered the Grinch episode in our 2020 episode, because I honestly, I like just wrote that movie off, but there's some good stuff in it. It's just very, very different from the original message I think was in the book and the Boris Karloff special. Though at the same time, because they have enough faith in Christmas to just sing when they have nothing else, they are rewarded with Christmas. And honestly, if you wanted to extrapolate it out even further, the Grinch could be the impetus of the lore of Santa Claus. Because he came to give them Christmas.
He came back and delivered presents. Yeah, it's weird actually that without Santa being in that world, the implications of the sleigh and the reindeer and all of that stuff, like, why does that need to be part of it? Why does poor Max need to get dressed up?
I mean, well, it's one of the situations where, like, clearly the myth of Santa Claus exists in that world, but there is no real Santa Claus. Like, the definitive message from How the Grinch Stole Christmas is Santa Claus is not real, kids. And the Grinch's heart grew 3 sizes that day.
Because as we discussed earlier, Dr. Seuss had some real deep, dark demons in them, and one of them was the fact that he actually was the Grinch.
That's why he loved Halloween, because Halloween.
That's why there's no pictures of him anywhere.
That's why he went under a pseudonym. Dr. Seuss, you say. Now that
I like that when you talk about the Grinch, you have to get into like salacious voice.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, I don't know. It's good times. But yeah, so like the Santa Clauses, I'm definitely gonna watch more. But after the first episode, Like, it's weird. Like, there's a reason. Here's the other thing, right? Let's talk about Disney Plus for a second so that this is sort of like, so we can write it off the company credit card, this
Right.
conversation, other than the fact that it's being recorded, but we can tie it into things. Disney Plus has this weird release schedule, right? Where
Yeah.
sometimes you'll get one episode, sometimes you'll get two episodes. And honestly, it's a flip of the coin which one it's going to be. Watching the Santa Clauses, it feels like it's less a flip of the coin and more there is some committee that is watching these things before they go to Disney Plus and saying, yeah, if you put up this one episode, nobody's going to watch this show. You need
Yeah.
the two episodes. Otherwise, we'll alienate them and they will not come back next week.
I mean, I would not be surprised if those exact conversations are going on. I
Yeah.
don't think that's too conspiratorial. I think
No,
like
I
the
don't.
idea being
I
like, how much of this do we want? You know, how much carrot do we want to put out there in order to trap these bastards?
Yeah, because here's the thing. We were ready to, if it hadn't been as late as it was in the night, because we watched the Santa Claus in addition to everything at 10 p.m. Like, it was just a late night for us because Mom was doing Black Friday work and then I had gotten home late because there was an event at the office. So we're like, but we need to watch something. We should start this so that we'll be on track for when the 5th episode drops on Wednesday. And really, it was one of those situations where, like, we need to watch the second one right now. And it's like, I don't know. Everyone's already kind of fallen asleep. Like, we probably need to rewatch this episode and then the next episode. If
we need to give this show as much of a chance as we can, and this is not it.
We should also probably be drunk. Like, we need to go a wassailing, come home, and watch the Santa Clauses. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's a thing that we talked about now and how we started the show. The name of the episode is Account of Access Holiday Special. So that means that I have an account of access that I want to share with you, and Sejohn wants to talk about a holiday special. So I guess right now is that moment in the Choose Your Own Adventure book where you could turn to page 35 to hear more about Devon's topic, or page 70 or page 97 to hear more about Sejohn's topic. Choose now.
I mean, I think it makes sense for us to transition into just a little bit about the Christmas stuff, because it wasn't just one Christmas special. I've watched a couple of them since we talked last, including the new Lindsay Lohan Christmas special for Netflix. That was kind of the big one that we were waiting for this season. And Netflix has decided that it really wants to give the good old college try at making respectable films out of Hallmark scripts. It is really interesting. They not like without even they unabashedly like play scenes from A Castle for Christmas, which was their big special last year. Like in the background of scenes of this movie, like there's no pretense that they're trying to like elevate these films beyond like more just like more of that nonsense. But there's this weird level of polish to these movies that really kind of makes you, it takes it into that realm of kind of the uncanny valley of bad movie, right? Where like I don't watch Hallmark Christmas specials because I think they're good movies, right? I watch them because they're fun and they're goofy, and I can laugh along at some silly stuff with all of my friends as we watch these admittedly not well-made films, right? And so by like taking it to that level of like we're gonna really try this time though, guys. And this is something that Netflix has been doing for years, like Christmas Prince
Christmas
or Prince
Prince
for,
or Prince
yeah,
for
Christmas Prince.
It's one
Right,
of those, yeah.
are both like old like prime examples of people being like, "Ooh, we're actually pretty good." And then like last year, Castle for Christmas kind of knocked it out of the park for a lot of people. And then this one is like people were legitimately excited to the point where like we put it on, and I mentioned that we were watching it online to a couple of friends, and they were just like, "Oh man, we're gonna put our on over here too." So like it ended up being kind of a weird like watch. It is a very stock standard Christmas story. It's got amnesia. It's got a girl who doesn't know who she is, and so she's being like she's celebrating Christmas in this town, trying to remember who like where she comes from. Of course, where she comes from is full of a world of commercialization, and like there's just all of that nonsense to it. There's like a cute blonde like
I gotta
with
time
blue
out
eyes.
just real quick. Does she go to another dimension, or is she just like
So
from the city and winds up in the country?
Okay, so hold on. We're gonna pull up the name of this one. I didn't think I was gonna talk about this long, so I did not. But hold on, Lindsay
Yeah.
Lohan.
I love when you see the cool thing about podcasting is when you search for something, you actually need to write it out as you're typing. Otherwise, you have what we call dead air. And dead air is the quickest way
I
to
don't. What
have
are
a
you
dead
doing?
program. Well, you know what? It can
So
also be a how to, right? How to podcast with the
what are you?
Singapore.
Are you trying to fill time? I've got the answer. I
I
had
know
it as
you
soon
do.
as I typed it in.
First of all, what am I at? I'm at 76 minutes of awake time. Like, I'm just having a blast, my brother.
Yeah, no. So I mean, let's be honest. It was top Google search for Lindsay Lohan right now because this is a big deal. Like she is coming back and making a family movie again. To the point where she even has a song on the soundtrack, and in fact, her sister has a song on the soundtrack. Like, there's a lot of Lindsay Lohan all over this movie, and they're not afraid to kind of play that up. And so
Sejohn. Lindsay Lohan's sister is just Lindsay Lohan. That was for a movie. The Parent Trap. There's only one Lindsay
no.
Lohan.
I believe her name is Elena Lohan. I may be wrong on that one, but she is a singer-songwriter, and we're not going to erase her from existence for a joke.
It was just a joke, though. I didn't. Thank you for get her real name. That's the problem.
What?
Get her. Is it Elena Lohan?
Yes.
You said you believe it's Elena Lohan. You're the one. I don't know. Never mind. Continue.
So anyway, so this has been a pretty big deal and something that's been on a lot of people's radar, right? So I there's also a lot of really weird elements of that to watching this movie because I, so the idea being, to answer your question, is that she is this rich socialite. She is in a situation in which she knocks her head and gets amnesia and is found in the woods, like, unconscious. And so when the town that finds her, like, they need some place for her to stay, so they put her up at the local lodge. The cute man that runs the lodge, that has just recently lost his wife and is raising a young daughter, obviously starts to fall in love with him, and they celebrate Christmas together. There's a lot, like, there's a lot of other stuff in there. Think of any other Christmas trope, and it probably finds its way in somehow. Santa is, no joke, just a straight up character in this movie, just in the background, just, pops in from time to time, moves the plot along, but then, disappears again. It's not about Santa. Like, it's never even called out that he's Santa. He's Santa, but like they never even consider the fact that he might be real.
The best part about what you're describing to me right now is I believe in my heart of hearts that they sent a script to Santa Claus and were like, "Hey, you want to be a background character in this movie?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." Like,
You know what I kept thinking
it's the
was
real Santa Claus.
what's his name? Mr. Bean there.
Rowan Atkinson.
Rowan Atkinson in Love Actually, right?
He's an
Like,
angel, right? They aborted that whole scene, but
and that character who just kind of pops up in scenes and like just moves the plot along, right? Like, it's exactly that. Is like Santa will just be there from time to time to just be like, and a little magic here, and then to like dance away. So magic is real in this, by the way. That's the other side of this whole thing. It's crazy. The movie is like completely off the wall bonkers because it does come from this pool of these kinds of scripts of just like, we're gonna just rent out a hotel for 2 weeks in like the mountains of Utah and just like film 5 movies. Let's do this. Like, and there you go. Hallmark has their holiday season set. Like, and so in using that formula, but then Netflix is doing that thing where they are clearly trying to elevate it. I'm not going to sit here and judge whether or not they succeed. I enjoy
they're
the hell out of
making
these kinds of movies
instead of 5 movies.
Well, right, but I enjoy the hell out of these movies, but I am also very biased in my opinion on why, what is work, right? Like, it becomes that kind of conversation. Like, these people are clearly working, and so at some point you have to kind of accept that, like, they are making something. It's just Hallmark, like the pool of Hallmark films this year is just, it is huge and shallow.
I need to agree with that because my parents, they love it. They love the Hallmark stuff. And even better this year is Peacock is just putting them all on. Like, if you have a Peacock subscription,
Yeah.
Peacock, the little streaming service that could, decided if we're going to survive, we gotta make a deal with Hallmark movies. And it's working. And it's like they released a whole list of all the Hallmark movies and when they'll be coming to Peacock. And it's basically like the Hulu method. So it's the day after they premiere on actual TV, which is not clear on the list. I want to make sure everybody knows that because my mother was very upset with me. She's like, you sent me the list and it said that A Big Fat American Christmas was going to be available and it's not available. And I'm like, well, it doesn't play until 8 o'clock tonight. So, like, I bet it needs to play before you can watch it without commercials on the streaming service. And she's like, oh, that makes sense. Sorry. So yesterday, well, another thing that we're going to talk about, here's your little teaser. River City Girls 2. I was able to get early access to River City Girls 2, and we're going to talk about it. But Dale and I were playing that in the dining room while my mother and father watched A Big Fat American Christmas, which is a Hallmark special that premiered on December 2nd. And I was not watching this movie. I just was, it was just on in the background, and there was a moment where Mom got real upset, and I commented, I'm like, oh, is this what happened? And Dale's like, are you watching the movie? And I'm like, no, I've heard like maybe 4 sentences and put together what the movie is about from that, because they are kind of shallow. Really enjoyable though. What I heard from this film, I kind of want to watch it.
I think we talked about this a little bit last year, right? Like the biggest part of the formula is that there's never a problem that lasts more than like 2 minutes. If some type of thing comes up, it is usually resolved, unless it is like the plot, like we have to save the lodge, right? Like that will take the whole movie. But if it's like, oh my God, like I just found out about your missing brother and you never told me about him. Why? I'm so mad at you. They'll run into the other room and cry. But then instantly they will then talk about it for like a sentence and be like, I'm sorry I didn't tell you about my missing brother. It's okay. And then move on. Like, okay, so we introduced this really complex part of the plot and then just decided to move past it. And that's part of the joy of them, is that there is this even keel feeling to them throughout. Like, yes, there is this overarching thing moving the movie along, but it's never anything more than like, well, for instance, one of the ones that we watched this year already is 8 Gifts of Hanukkah, which is all about a woman who is receiving mystery secret admirer gifts on every night of Hanukkah, and she needs to figure out who in her life it is. And so there's like the list of like 4 guys that she thinks it might be, and then it turns out it's none of them.
Oh my God.
Yeah, right. Like it's that, right. And so throughout, like the whole plot is, well, who's the one sending her all of this stuff? Could it be this guy? Could it be that guy? But then like, one scene is just legitimately like, oh my God, this guy needs glasses. Immediately she's a glasses doctor. So like I need to go into the office. And then and she's like, I can't find my keys. Then she finds her keys. Like that's the whole like problem of the scene is she's like, I need to do this thing. I can't do this thing. Oh, never mind. I did this thing. Moving on is like how those movies are built.
We say a lot of great things on the show, Sejohn, but I think I have to nominate She's a Glasses Doctor for Quote of the Year 2022. She's a Glasses Doctor. Oh, okay.
I am only giving you as much as the movie cares to also give you.
Does she introduce herself? Hi, Dr. Juliet, Glasses Doctor.
I mean, I don't know how many of these types of movies you've watched, Devon, but yes.
I have watched probably 0. I don't think I've ever sat and watched a full one. Oh, that's not true. So, Wonder Woman 84. I watched Wonder Woman 84. That's the closest I've gotten to a Hallmark movie.
I will say this, as I admitted earlier, I do have a bias when it comes to watching these kinds of movies, and so like take this all with a grain of salt. But watching this movie as like not just a Christmas movie fan, but also like an old school Lindsay Lohan fan, like I loved like The Parent Trap and Mean Girls and all of that, right? And hey, it sucked to kind of watch what's happened to Lindsay Lohan's career over the years and all of that. No matter who you want to blame in that, you have to admit that it's been a bad situation, right? And so watching this was really kind of heartwarming and charming in a couple of ways. Not only is it a fun Christmas movie, but like she kind of kicks the shit out of this movie. Like she comes in, she knows exactly what the material is. She's never more over the top than what it calls for, but she's also, which is a huge flip from the last time I sat down and watched a Lindsay Lohan movie, which was Liz and Dick like 10 years ago. And that movie is a friggin' mess. Like if we ever want to talk about like poor movie making just all around, Liz and Dick is just a prime example of just all the ways to not make a biopic. And then, so there's this thing where like the movie itself wasn't good, but of course Lindsay Lohan gets the brunt of a lot of the shit for that movie because of being one of the lead stars in it. One of, I will point out, though, the fact they never seem to talk about. I can't even think the guy's name that ended up playing Richard Harris in that one. Um, was it Richard Harris? Yeah, I think it was. Anyway, but that movie catches a lot of slack, and that was kind of the last time that like she was kind of in this position, and so much has changed in that time. I mean, not only is she also just a decade older and all of that, but also we don't do hate watching much anymore and that kind of stuff. And I think that this movie really benefits from being in a culture that no longer like just watches a thing to shit on it, because there's because I think what we learned in the era of hate watching is that you can nitpick the hell out of anything. People would hate watch movies that were doing gangbusters with fans, but like they just wanted to just be shitty about it. And so like once we kind of realized that like, oh, we're not critiquing this thing in the hopes of like moving culture forward. We're just critiquing this thing because we feel better about ourselves when we tear other people down. That's not fun. Like that kind of has gone to the wayside. And so I wonder if part of my reception of this movie is that or what, but she really does like there's moments in this movie where she is just genuinely funny. Like there's a lot of physical shtick in it and stuff like that. Like it's a good time. So I definitely encourage people to check it out. It's called Falling for Christmas. I don't know if I said its name.
You have
But
not,
like
so
but that
falling
is
for
that yeah,
Christmas.
falling for Christmas. Yeah, I think part of the reason I haven't said its name is because I shouldn't assume this with you, Devon, but generally this has been a pretty big topic on a lot of people's minds because the Netflix Christmas movie has become kind of a tradition, and then add to that the fact that it was a Lindsay Lohan like return to cinema type event. Yeah. So that was the other one that I watched that I really wanted to give some time to just for a moment because we wouldn't be us if we did talk about the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special that dropped.
I'm so proud of you, Sejohn, because you were able to preempt my joke about Falling for Christmas being a prequel slash sequel to I Know How I Died. Um, and then credit to me for still working it in there. Yeah, no, the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special was fantastic. And I was
Yeah.
so upset that you hadn't watched it before our last recording. And now I'm so ready to talk about it, having had a week to ruminate on it, because
Yeah.
it's so good. It is
Okay.
something that, oh my God, I
I
think
do
about it
want to
every
call out
day.
one thing, though. I
Okay.
do want to call out one very specific thing that you and I said that we kind of were hoping for from this thing that we did not get.
Yeah.
It is completely connected to the universe. There is a couple of pieces of information, perhaps even more, that are extremely important to know before you roll into Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Yeah, that's true. And I kind of knew that when we were talking. You were talking about that, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I kind of know that that's not going to be the case.
No,
Um,
I know, but when we
like,
watched Werewolf by Night, we noted how kind of amazing it was that they were able to produce that with no connection, and how we kind of hoped that was the direction the spatial presentations are going to go. But even then, I think we both kind of knew that with a Guardians of the Galaxy style special coming out, no matter what it was, how could you not connect it to information we already know and stuff going forwards?
I'm just happy they
Um,
didn't go. What I was afraid of, honestly, and the way they're like, it's disconnected when you said that. My thought process was that they put it like a Beauty and the Beast Enchanted Christmas, where it's
yeah,
happening between existing events.
right,
And
right.
like, and it's like, so we all had to have that fun Christmas that one time. But no, this is very much Guardians of the Galaxy 2.89 Final Remix Edition HD plus. Because
Coda,
everything else in plus.
yeah, it is yeah, it's this like tack on like, hey, by the way, get caught up. Should we
It's,
talk? I mean, like, spoiler alert for this going forward because of that, right?
oh
I
yeah,
think that's what I'm
definitely.
also gonna say
Yeah, it's been
because
out there
I mean,
for a week, but it's on Disney Plus. If you have Disney Plus, you can pause this right now and go watch it. If you don't have Disney Plus, I'm pretty sure they extended the Black Friday special where you can get Disney Plus for a year for I think 99 cents. I don't know if that's a month or for the entire year it's 99 cents. If it's the entire year, I
either
think we
way,
understand why streaming services are having a problem
no,
because
but yeah, but as a consumer, either
yeah,
way, good plan.
it's a good one. And that one is the ad supported version, which
Yeah,
is not there yet. That's coming later this month. But also, if that deal is no longer going, this week that we're releasing this episode, sign up for Disney Plus this week and it'll still be $7.99 Premium, you'll have access to everything, because it is next week on the 13th of December that they are putting into effect all of the new plans and everything. So you can pay the $8 for the first month, and then the price will go up to, I think it's going to be, what, $10.99 a month for Disney Plus. I'm not 100% on that, but
You making ad revenue money over there? What are you
no,
doing?
I'm not making ad
You
revenue
leaving
money.
me out of something?
No, if I were making ad revenue money, first of all, Sejohn, I would let you know about it. Second of all, like, I couldn't do that. No, I'm not. I'm making sure that people are informed. That's the fact of it. Like, there's so many changes to all of these streaming platforms. Is the reason why I got an ad supported Netflix account that I just kind of abandoned like a Tamagotchi in the 90s. I watched like an episode of Blockbuster and a movie on it, and then was just like, this is a inferior thing, especially the fact that it's 720. Like, what the heck? I don't get it. And the stuff that's not available but then was available, I don't know. But no, I'm just saying that, like, if you haven't seen the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special and you want to watch it before we like discuss probably every aspect of it, because it's 40 minutes long, it's not like a 3-hour epic, go watch it, go get it, and it's going to be affordable to get it right now. And it's like the cost of going to go see a movie, right? One ticket, and then you can watch it with everybody, and you'll have all the other stuff on Disney Plus too. So sorry, that's my not ad, definitely sounded like an ad portion of the episode. Apologies. Now we commence with the spoilers for Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. You have been warned.
Yeah, no, I mean the ways in which it ties into a lot of the stuff that we already know about the Guardians, even down to the fact that like mentioning, Kevin Bacon and that being a huge plot point in the first movie of the whole dance off and all that at the end, like being inspired by his like love of Kevin Bacon and Footloose and all that, like that then leading to all the events of this one in which they try and find Kevin Bacon for Peter for Christmas, right? Like that is just a beautiful pull, right? And then like all of the stuff about Gamora not being there, and to their credit, I was worried that this was going to be some weird twist for them to quote unquote fix Gamora before the third movie. I mean, for those that have not been keeping up, right? Like the Gamora that currently exists in the MCU is not the one from Guardians of the Galaxy 1 or 2. She was unfortunately killed by Thanos in order to receive the Soul Stone. And then this one that is currently in this existence is out of time. She was brought forward in time by Thanos in order to attack, right? And then she stays behind after
Does
everybody else gets
stay
killed.
behind? Like, I don't know. I don't remember seeing
Or at the very
anything
least,
with her, because like
well,
the
no,
snap that
but
gets rid of.
if she doesn't stay behind, is the idea then that because we know Gamora is in the next movie? Let's make that clear. Like we know Gamora is not
Well,
gone.
we know that because the trailer came out that I haven't watched,
Right.
but there have been enough pictures of her.
Right.
So.
Also, like she's been at like Comic-Con and still talking about the character.
being
Like
in
it's
it,
not, yeah, it's not a secret, right? Like she's not gone completely. If she does go back in time, I guess you could say that there's a version of her. The multiverse stuff is going to get weird, and I don't know if Guardians of the Galaxy was willing to get so deep into it. So I was concerned that what they were going to do with this was that they were going to just offhandedly try and like figure out what to do with Gamora, so that when we went into the third movie, that wasn't a question. Now it's got me kind of excited because Gamora is nowhere in it, like which I think might be one of the biggest like kind of reveals about it.
Of it, yeah.
Is that we might be seeing a lot more of kind of that story built into 3, which is cool. It's going to be kind of weird for anybody that's a fan out there that doesn't really know what else is going on. I don't know if there's anybody like that, really. I don't know. Maybe I'm making up a human being that doesn't exist.
Yeah, if you're a fan, then you probably know what's going on. If you just watch the movies, you might not know everything. Like my mother doesn't know who Jonathan Majors is at all, and she watched all of Loki and enjoyed it. But she's like the Ant-Man of him. Like, I don't know what that's going to be. And I'm like, that's cool. No, it's good because you enjoy the movies. We have good discussions.
But if you say only watch the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, but don't watch the Avengers films, you might be very confused going into 3, trying to figure out why suddenly Gamora is who she is in that movie. Yeah. So I don't know. So that was one of the big surprises for me. I mean, like the revelation of the big thing of the whole thing, is it cool if we talk about like the big kind of plot stuff?
Oh yeah, I'd love to talk about the big kind of plot stuff. For a couple of reasons. I mean, we alluded to it last week, I'm pretty sure, and the fact that Disney's Marvel Legends documentary series released the episode revealing the big thing 2 days before the special because of a programming error that I just think is hilarious.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
like that whole scene was on the internet, and I'm like, oh, I'm okay with that because it felt like it didn't feel like it was something from the special
Okay,
the
let's
way
stop
that it,
talking around it. Like,
okay, yeah.
what is it that happened?
Oh, Mantis and Peter are half siblings. Ego is their
Right.
shared father.
Which is actually really interesting because I think if pressed, I probably could have already assumed that, right?
Oh yeah,
Like
there were
there was all this implications that she was another creation of Egos, which would make her in some way related to Peter. Like it makes total sense.
yeah, it's putting the title on it. It's actually giving it a name that
Yeah,
sort of gives it the power that it has because there is clearly a member of her species in the mural of all of the people that Ego got down with in order to make his children.
right.
Which so that was there. It was one of those revelations when it was revealed in Marvel Legends that people assumed was just a cut scene from Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Their mind didn't go to, oh, this must be from the new holiday special until Disney pulled the episode down and they're like, oh, okay, so that was a huge spoiler for the show that's coming out in 2 days. Because it was discussed, like, I remember having discussions about, well, she's got to be one of Ego's kids, right? And it's like, it would track. I mean, why else would she be there?
Yeah.
Like he doesn't need other people. She was probably the next closest thing to having Peter's power. And then when he found Peter, he's like, well, I don't really need you anymore. And that's sort of exactly what happens in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's exactly what happens. Yeah, and I mean, so because of that, the special really leans into her character and Drax. But it's a huge Mantis story, and like I adored that. Like I thought that was fantastic. I was not expecting it. You know, nowadays you'd expect it to be like a Groot and Rocket special or something, right?
Right.
Um,
Well,
but no,
Groot, did you
it was
watch the I Am
entirely
Groot
stolen by them.
videos?
I did,
The
yeah.
five shows, those are fantastic, and that was I'm glad that those happened as well, and that's also why I was afraid it might be Enchanted Christmas because very clearly that is between like the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and Infinity War, all of the
Right.
I Am Groot stuff. So you have that, and you also have the Groot and Rocket series. So it's not like we don't have all of that, but yeah, to get Palm Klimtoff is that, and I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, like the actual ability to play a character and do stuff with Mantis was incredible. Like
It was really fun.
like
Yeah.
Mantis wasn't a very well developed character, and I know that's awful to say, but she really wasn't. She hadn't gotten a lot of character development. With all of the character development that she's given in the 40 minutes of the holiday special, Mantis is probably my favorite Guardian now. Like,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah,
crazy.
I think Volume 2 does her justice for the character in that movie. I think the problem is that with these larger films that have gone on, these ensemble films that she has also shown up in, include up to and including Thor, Love and Thunder, right? Like, is that there's so much going on in those movies that nobody was being given proper character development. I mean, obviously, least of all female characters, and least of all a female character of otherness that didn't show up until the sequel, right? Like she was unfortunately mistreated, I think, and not given enough material in a lot of the times that she has shown up. But I do think that again, if you were somebody that's just watching the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, I do think Mantis is already kind of somebody that you're really charmed by the end of the second movie, right? And like by building her up, you're not wrong. She just becomes this phenomenal character and really kind of solidifies her place as part of the team,
As a
right?
guardian, and that was the thing because she felt I never really considered her a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Like she always kind of just felt like, oh, and Drax's girlfriend is here hanging out. But now, no, she's definitely a member of the team, And that's just from the thing. I mean, James Gunn did what James Gunn do, right? This was the James Gunn special, this holiday special, of taking side characters in the series and building them up so that, like, you will defend them the same way you would defend your children because they become your children. Like, seriously, I can't think of her freaking name. She showed up in Black Adam. Spoilers for Black Adam. The
Amanda Waller?
Not Amanda Waller. The blonde member of the Peacemaker
team.
Right. I knew it in the moment. I knew it in Black Adam where I was like cheered because she was there. This is the other problem with me being sleepy. My computer, my hard drive has not been spinning long enough to do it. Amelia is her first name. Hardcourt. Yeah. Like Hardcourt, I love her. She's one of my favorite DCEU characters after what she went through in Peacemaker. Ditto something like Steve Agee's character. I can't remember his name, and I feel bad about that because it's like Economos. It's John Economos. Wow, good for me. This is how my brain works. Oh my God, I almost have 2 hours of awake, Siege, and I'm so proud of myself. But John Economos and Amelia Harcourt in The Suicide Squad are kind of nothing characters, to the fact that they're not even the ones who stand up to Amanda Waller. It's a nameless third-party character who has not been seen since. And that's probably because she got 3 bullets in her skull. Let's just be honest about it. So the way that James Gunn for Peacemaker was like, all right, I'm going to take these characters and I'm going to flesh them out. I mean, even Peacemaker, because Peacemaker was just sort of like the villainous version of what Bloodsport represented in that movie. And to give him like a really deep, complex backstory where he's spoilers for Peace. Have you seen Peacemaker? I don't want to ruin Peacemaker for you.
I mean, I've seen some of Peacemaker. You know that spoilers are not a problem. Okay, you got to stop doing that.
Okay, I understand that. But I mean, the big thing is that his father is the White Dragon, who is a white supremacist supervillain. So, like, the fact that, like, he grew up in that household, like, yeah, it makes sense where he comes from and these things. And it's not that and he's not saying that as an excuse. He understands that, like, that's the thing I need to come to terms with if I want to be my own man and what I have to do. Like, is what James Gunn does. And so to see that applied to something, Peacemaker, the Suicide Squad, those were very much grim and dark storytelling features, right? Guardians of the Galaxy, on the other hand of it, even though there are like some darker themes in it, they're always kind of like bubblegum pop type of movies, right? Like, they're the fun movies. They're like, my mother, when I'm like, oh, Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, she was so excited because she loves the Guardians of the Galaxies movie. Movies. That was weird pluralization there. But Peacemaker, even though like that, like what she saw that, she's like, I can't believe they took these characters who were nothing and built them up. And it is. Because even Drax, for all that Drax has been in the movies, he didn't have a whole lot of character development either. And I feel like I know Drax better after the time I got to spend with him in the holiday special as well.
Yeah, I mean, also, it's really rare in Marvel nowadays to see our heroes happy. Like, I don't want to. This is not our time to. This is not our time to like bring this hammer down and start like really digging into some MCU, like state of the MCU stuff. We probably should have a state of the MCU episode at some point. But that's also one of the big things about this one for me is that it was just so much fun to watch these guys have a good day. You know, like so much we've seen from them, especially in like Endgame and Infinity War and stuff. It was just good to just see these guys just get a break, and I think that was intentional, right? Like, I feel like that's part of the joy of it as a Christmas special.
Well, it's what I liked about the Guardians of the Galaxy comics is that as much as it is these group of people who work together to do it, there's also sort of that workplace, like, we all live together because they all live on the ship, right? It's like It's like Serenity is what I almost called Firefly, but it's like Firefly is all this, like, they're going out and they're doing these things as this team and they're these heroes, but then you also have the fact that, like, there's downtime. You know how much downtime there fucking is in space? It takes forever to get anywhere, even with almost light speed travel.
And there's
So
no like I'm gonna step outside for air, right? Like
yeah,
that. So it's yeah. So that is a huge element
so it
to
becomes
that to
this
their
way
life.
that
Yeah.
you build these characters in this fact that like there have to be those times where like, all right, so this week we're playing oh, what's that zombie game, right? Half of you are zombies, half of you are survivors. Let's see who can win. Can we not do this? It's like a college dorm, right? It's
Yeah.
literally like a college fucking dorm. And
Yeah.
Peter Quill for James Gunn Guardians of the Galaxy is the unfortunate resident advisor who has to make sure that they don't go too crazy before they have to save the galaxy again. And I
Yeah.
really like it. The big thing for me about the holiday special is the fact that they now own Nowhere. Because
Yeah. I was gonna say that's
Cosmos,
one of the other big things revealed in like the first moment.
yeah, but
They've bought Nowhere from the Collector, which also explains why Cosmo and all of them are all running around and not still in glass.
well, yeah, that's true. It wasn't his. I mean, his museum's been destroyed 100 times and then just rebuilt
Yes.
because that's what the collector does. That's what the collector does. Yeah, but seeing Cosmo and Cosmo voiced by the Maria Bakalova who played Borat's daughter in the subsequent movie film.
Nice.
Excellent casting. I love it. I love Cosmo so much. It really made me want to play the game again. Have you played the Guardians of the Galaxy video game yet? Because this
Hmm.
is the time to do it if you
Yeah.
haven't, people.
Yeah,
Um,
but yeah, the introduction of some new characters, them owning the whole planet, and Peter being responsible for like checking paperwork and stuff like that. Like it's really interesting, and I think it really shows us this side of Peter that we didn't really understand before, which is what he was doing when he was with the Reavers, right?
yeah, the
Or what are they?
Ravagers.
Yeah. Like what him and Yandu were really responsible for, and what Yandu really taught him. And so him running this like this black market planet of nowhere is like him basically owning like a pirate island, and I am so for that.
Yeah. Oh, imagine if Madripoor went to war with Nowhere. Madripoor would get their asses handed to them. We're in space, buddy. But yeah, but that's what it is. It's kind of like our flag means death too, is the way that I kind of view it. I mean, from what I've
Mhm.
seen, I haven't seen the whole series, but like, yeah, it'd be fun to be a pirate. It would not be fun to be the captain, right? To be responsible
Yeah.
for all of these people and
Yeah,
making sure
yeah.
that like you're essentially a den mother to a bunch of crazy thieves and murderers.
Well, and so what that means for the next movie is really the maturity that we're gonna have to see from Peter on display in like running a place like that, because it's the exact kind of thing that made you really feel like Yondu was a villain at first, and it took two movies to really parse out how what he was really doing was taking care of those people, you know? Like there is definitely an element to this where Peter's going to have to grow up because of the responsibility of owning this place now, and I'm all for that. Yeah.
My argument is that Peter has already kind of grown up. This makes me feel so much better about what we saw of the Guardians in Thor Love and Thunder, in the fact that like Peter is growing, right? So he can't just hang out with his like frat boy buddy Thor anymore because he
Right.
wants more out of life. And then like that's what sets off Thor on his whole like adventure to kind of grow up and take responsibility for who he is now. Like the Guardians, like Peter wants to be more. He wants to do more with his life than what Thor is kind of holding them back to. And
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
really like it shows that he's already on those steps, and then it supports when like we now own Nowhere. And for most of the special, it is just Peter doing paperwork and like administrative tasks.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's cool. It's very, very cool. And the Kevin Bacon of it all, the joke
Mhm.
that just will not die in this house of calling candy cane men. I mean, I gave you a mystery figure Lego for your birthday, and we have
Mhm.
another one of those. The reason you got that, Sejohn, I believe I told you, is because it was a duplicate. Plus, I thought you'd enjoy it. But it's a sugar plum fairy, right? I'm pretty sure
Right.
that's what it's supposed to be,
Right.
and
Yeah.
it comes with a candy cane. So Mom took it out of the Christmas stuff where she put it to like put on display, and she's like, "Oh look, he's holding a little man." And I'm just like, oh God, no. This is the joke. This is the joke that will persevere. No. But what has really persevered for me, and it's unsurprising, our Spotify Wraps just released this week, and my top song is Boom 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 by the Venga Boys. The second song is Every Heartbeat by Amy Grant. And then the next three are all off of the Peacemaker soundtrack. Because like James Gunn has been my soundtrack of 2022, and the old in 97s, I Don't Know What Christmas Is, open parentheses, but Christmas time is here, close parentheses, has been living rent-free in my brain since I saw this special.
So somehow good. In a 40-minute special, he once again delivers just one hell of a soundtrack. I mean, like, the licensed music is amazing. Then there's two, like, created songs for the special that are just awesome. It's fantastic. The music in this is just so much fun.
My favorite thing was knowing it was the old 97 before it put on screen in huge letters that it was the old 97. I'm like,
man, all kitted out. They looked great.
They looked great. And imagine how cool that is to be like, yeah, you're going to come on set, you're going to put on heavy makeup, and then play a song. You good for that? Yeah. No, I'll do that. Thank you, James. Thank you, Mr. Gunn.
Oh, man. It looked like they were having a blast. And then, I mean, they get to finish the whole thing off in a song led by Kevin Bacon. Like, well, how can that go?
Who eats
how can that be a
bad
bad day
at Christmas time, though? That's my only question. We can share peach pie and talk about our dreams. Kevin Bacon, this is Christmas. Peach pie is not for Christmas.
Well, we don't know. He could have a tradition in his house that could be very meaningful.
That's my favorite thing, is that, like, Kevin Bacon in this special motherfucking loves Christmas.
He loves Christmas. Hanging out watching Santa Claus versus the Martians, which is a phenomenal poll.
I'm just like, he's watching Santa Claus versus the Martians. Why? Who is that for? And then I'm like, it's for all of us. It's for all of us who know. That's who it's for. That was a great moment. And then, like, there was another one where everybody's just like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, never mind. It's fine. It's fine. It was for me, and it was for Sejohn.
The vitriol for actors in this movie was something else.
I guess all actors aren't pieces of shit. Well, but it also, like, as much as there's vitriol for actors and, like, the beautiful sort of, like, satirical take that is, I hated how I said satirical just then. It also would make so much sense for people who are actually going out and saving the galaxy, like, to have disdain for people who only pretend to do it.
It's just, the MCU is just not really good at hiding their disdain for actors between this and the ongoing Matt Damon jokes in the Taika Waititi Thor movies.
Well, like, is it the MCU not being good at it, or is it people who don't really give a fuck what Disney has to say about it, putting in these satirical jabs to be like, yeah, no, this is how the company feels about these people. Please, like I'm writing this from inside of a DVD factory. Here is the address. Come find me. Like, yeah, it's really good, and I have enjoyed it. I've listened to the song every day, and it's just fun. It's just a fun.
So I just have one last question in this whole special that needs to be answered at some point in some way, even if it's just a joke offhand at some point. Where did she get Bucky's arm?
Oh, I mean... Oh, Sejohn, what a foolish question. How do you not know the answer to where did she get Bucky's arm? I mean, let's be honest, that's not the arm that he's using in Infinity War. I mean, when he comes back, he has...
Captain Winter Soldier there?
Yeah, Winter Soldier, he has the, like, vibranium arm. So and they were in Wakanda, and there were 5 years where she was one of the only Guardians on Earth, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it would make perfect sense that she could just take it. It's weird that she gave it to Rocket like 6 years later. That's the weirder part about it, because it makes sense. Like, that Bucky's arm moment hit me. Like, it hit me. Because, A, it's funny because I need that guy's leg, right? So it's a great callback to how Rocket thinks. But then you think about that scene in Infinity War where Bucky and Rocket are fighting alongside each other, and he picks him up and holds him like a gun, essentially. Like,
Yeah.
that is such a powerful moment for me. So, like, this beautiful memento, and I know that it's something that it's not only that someone you care about, it's the type of shit that you will appreciate.
Right, right.
It's the most beautiful gift ever. As great as it is to kidnap Kevin Bacon, you still kidnapped Kevin Bacon and used mind control on him to make it okay. And there's some issues there, the issues of consent. And I'm glad that they really like approached it head on and had Craggle explain to him why they did it and where it came from. And, you know, like, that was all handled very cool, because there was a moment where I'm just like, it's a little mind control, like squidgy right now, where I don't feel great about what's happening.
Oh man.
But her giving him the arm is great. But then it's also the fact of like, where's it been all this time?
Yeah, where has it been? Where did it come from? How did she
Yeah.
get that arm? I need to know. I need to know these answers.
No, I mean, so like we just need to look at Falcon and Winter Soldier, because I think he starts with the metal arm and then he gets the upgrade, right? When they go visit that. So then it probably discarded and she finds it. Or she had like said to Bucky, hey, if you're ever done with that arm, could I get it from you?
I don't know. She doesn't strike me as the type that would have that kind of foresight.
I
She
mean,
definitely strikes me as the type that would go down and kick the shit out of Bucky to steal his arm for
and
the
I would
holiday.
love to see that. Oh my God. There's your next Marvel one shot is Bucky and Blue and the two of them just fighting. And that'd be fantastic. But also, I mean, she, as much as she is a daughter of Thanos, and what that means is that they will kill to get their things, Thanos was also a pretty good like negotiator and politician. So she might understand the like political value of being able to negotiate and have a discussion. Right? Or maybe she just asked him.
I need to know. That's my point, Dev.
It's good. But thank you for bringing it up, because it is the moment. It's the moment. And Siege and I apologize, but this is the moment where we need to shift gears into another account of access from Devon Decker.
Yeah, no, let's go, man. You gave me the first half of this show just so that you could have the second. So there you go.
I appreciate you, my brother. And if you're somebody who I've been talking to about the topic of River City Girls 2, who is the reason why you're listening to this show, sorry it's happening an hour in, but hopefully you enjoyed everything that came before. But hi, I'm Devon Decker, and this week I brute forced my way a Japanese PlayStation Network account. I had one before when it was very easy to sign up on the PS3, but then PlayStation and Sony decided it was going to be a lot harder to sign up for a PlayStation Network account outside of your home country.
Yeah.
And the reason for this is, even though we're one world, the storefronts and the digital storefronts on video game consoles, they're not all created the same.
You're not all equal. No. Yeah.
There are some games that they think we will not play in America, usually like big text-based games or things like that. So they don't release them here. They only release them in Japan. Now,
Yeah, or the bigger thing is that there's versions of games in which certain aspects are tweaked, changed for various reasons. Sometimes it's as mundane as like, this color is offensive in this culture, so like let's not color the hero in it, like maybe. And this is going back to like some earlier stuff. We've learned a lot since then. Yeah, but nowadays, like it's not too weird to find that like, hey, in this country, all of the Nazis are robots. So that you can still shoot them, right? Like
so
that type of thing still happens. Yeah.
Yeah, like Nazi iconography is not really allowed in Germany, right? Because they're afraid that it's gonna reawaken it, and I get that. I understand that from a thing. So
right.
Like,
so they'll have a version available only in their store that happens to be a version that is, for all intents and purposes, censored or edited.
Yeah.
But yeah. So there's reason for different storefronts. Also, I mean, you want to get to the grand scheme of things. You start talking about the EU. There's so many rules and regulations about what you can't do to consumers there to bilk money out of them, and those don't exist in America. So they have two different storefronts so that they can have the clean version for the EU, and then they can have the nice make us all rich version for the United States.
Yeah. And then the craziest thing about that is that just the United States alone is making them all rich, right? If you really want to talk about microtransactions and all that. But that's neither here nor there. The reason why I did this is because in the summer of 2022, it was announced that River City Girls 2, a game that I've been kind of excited to play after playing River City Girls, was going to be released.
Kind of.
What was that?
Kind of excited to play, yeah.
Well, I'm kind of excited to play it because in anticipation to play it, I played River City Ransom Underground, and that game was a little bit broken. And a little bit broken is being very kind. The game is still broken to this day, even though it released back in 2017. It's a dead game by all accounts, right? You can still pay money for it on the Steam store, but its support has all but ended. And as we were getting information about River City Girls 2, having played River City Ransom Underground in order to prepare, because a character from the game was being featured as one of the playable characters in RCG2, Dale and I started to notice a lot of artifacts from River City Ransom Underground were making their way into this sequel. And as I don't know if you've ever played it. I know you haven't played it, right? I don't know why you would ever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you've never played it. Most people haven't played it. It's one of those games where like it had a lot of punch behind it, and then when it failed on delivery, it just kind of got lost to the ethos.
Right.
It was weird to Dale and I, who played through the game, to be like, why would you borrow from this game, right? Like you tried it, it didn't work. You now have a successful game. Why is the response to that be, oh, let's try all that stuff that didn't work from our other game into this world. Let's bring that forward. It seems really hubristic in a lot of ways, right? Like,
I mean, it's if they don't consider it a failure though, like that's the other thing is like we're talking about it being a failure in terms of maybe like monetarily, right? But I mean, how is it received within the community? How do people talk about it? How do the creators talk about it? Is it that they're disappointed that that stuff didn't work because it meant so much to them, so they're pulling it into this one to see if they can get it to work, right?
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. Probably most accurately is that these were really good ideas, but we didn't have the time to implement them when we were only running off of Kickstarter funds.
Right.
So now that we have a studio behind us, let's try to do it. I mean, it's cool, but it's also, if you're somebody who played that game, right, who cares about the series in that way, it kind of, you already have a bad taste from it,
Yeah.
It's
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So it's not like something you're excited about to be like, oh, they're bringing that back. Oh, day-night cycle? That like was just kind of annoying because it just meant stores were closed at night. It didn't really add anything to the actual gameplay. Like it's those thoughts that were in our head. But we still were like, we're going to play the game. Eventually the summer release was delayed to winter 2022. So that got pushed back, even though like I sent you that full like preview of the game, right, CJ?
Right.
That
yeah,
was, like,
yeah. We planned on having this discussion like 4 months ago, and we were just like gearing up for it. We were looking at articles, looking at write-ups on it, ready to go, and then suddenly they were like, "Oh, by the way, the game's not coming out for another 4 months." We were, "Oh, okay, never mind.
All right,
shelve this."
Yeah, and my theory at the time was it was because of Shredder's Revenge. So the first thing I'm going to say is I really support my theory at the time with the fact that the Japanese version, which is the whole reason why I did it, because it released in Japan on December 1st.
Mm-hmm.
The version that released in Japan only has 2-player co-op, and it does not have an online mode.
So it's all couch.
So it's all couch co-op, which is fantastic because that's how Dale and I wanted to play it our first time through. So we get to do that, right? And the only thing it really took was reading Japanese through. I think I had to use 3 different translators in order to get it to a type of English that I could understand and interact with. It was a good time. I really enjoyed doing all of this stuff. So like there was a whole adventure to even just getting the game. But the version that released in Japan, and they've said this, that like we want to make sure that the online stuff is working before we release it in America. It doesn't have the online stuff, but their big announcement, one of the later things that they showed off was that it would have 4-player local co-op, which is also kind of strange that like it feels like they're chasing the dragon that is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. And the way that that game was so well received with its
Yeah.
online, like 6-player online co op. So then to be like, yeah, but we have 4-player local, like, okay, like, what?
Mhm. Yeah, I
um,
mean, I feel like four-player local is probably more of a standard feature for co-op versions
yeah, like,
nowadays. It's like, so I mean, maybe that's just what they're saying is that they're going to try and get some standard, what they consider standard features in as well.
right. I mean, it's not one of those things that exists. Like River City Ransom, going all the way back to that, was 2-player. It's always kind of been a 2-player experience. So I understand why that was the initial development. But then, well, we have 6 players and people are like getting together to play this game. Let's do it. It really feels like the delay to the game was because Shredder's Revenge hit and hit so huge, and you don't want to get lost in that deluge as another beat 'em up, right?
Well,
That
and
doesn't
so I
have.
wonder if what it was that they had calendared out, we'll release the game and then we'll add the co-op stuff later. As we often talk about the idea of putting out the unfinished version and then cleaning it up as it goes. But that idea being that when they saw, oh, this version that came out with it already, we're just going to get eaten up because we don't have that yet. Even if we promise it'll come eventually, nobody's going to buy the game now.
Yeah,
And as of course, the other thing we all know is that if you ain't getting sales day one, then you ain't getting sales worth counting, which is again ridiculous.
yeah, but that's what happened to River City Ransom Underground. So like
Yeah.
they also know that, right? They're once bitten. Of course they'd be twice
Yeah.
shy.
So
So
I would not be surprised if the release of a successful co-op fighter like beat 'em up like that coming out and kind of really realizing that their package is just not going to be able to compete, holding off for a few months while they get at least a couple of those other features implemented totally makes sense.
yes, exactly. So then the really weird thing is that in Japan they're like, no, we're gonna release it as is. We announced a release date of December 1st. We're going to release it on December 1st.
I mean, how big
And
is the beat 'em up like scene in Japan?
I mean,
Like, is it?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't understand that, but I do know that there's less of a focus on online. So the
Yeah.
fact that it has that couch co-op, that's going to be enough for most people, right?
Yeah, I know through like my limited like experience delving into stuff like Monster Hunter and stuff like that the reason why so much of that stuff is just Japan exclusive or like by the time it gets to us it's been in Japan for a couple of years is because they're more prone to single player experiences and wider expansive experiences for one person than they are, you know, but the idea of being able to then take that one player experience and compare it, so things like streaming, things like leaderboards, ranking systems, things like that are really big. So it's not that they don't feel this desire to like share their experiences. It's just that they when they're playing, there seems to be this attitude in that market that they much rather experience games at their own pace and on their with their own like space.
Yeah,
And so I wonder if that's part of it. I mean, I not wonder. I can
it's
almost guarantee that that's
probably
part of
what it
why.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's why they're like, we don't put that focus on the multiplayer. We're going to release the game as it is. And the game as it is still kind of broken. And I think that's the most disappointing part of it to me is like when I jump in one of the rooms in the school, I fall through the floor and I die. Like that's
Oh,
not cool. Like it unfortunately feels like the game might not be it might not just be we need to add the 4-player mode and the online co-op mode is why we're holding it back.
yeah.
And they were annoying, but they were annoying in the same way that River City Ransom Underground was annoying. Let's like it is. This is 100% River City Ransom Underground 2 more than it is River City Girls 2. The whole way that the world is built out for you, the way you get missions, the way that you actually move through the game, because it's more open world and their only other open world experience was River City Ransom Underground. That's what they built the experience off of.
Yeah.
So Dale was. I will give all credit to Dale for that because Dale's the one who's like, it's just going to be River City Ransom Underground, and we need to accept that. And we did accept that. Like we played through it and we did it. But then the things that happened in River City Underground that were annoying would be like we beat a boss, he has no health left, but he's still fighting, and now we can't hurt him. That happened in this game.
Face
Like
palm.
specifically,
Ow.
like we were fighting the the fifth boss, and we beat him and we felt really good. And then he went into like a huge area of attack thing, and he just didn't stop. And we couldn't hurt him because he's invulnerable during that time. So we avoided it for like 5 minutes before it's like, we just need to let him beat us and do this fight again. And then we did the fight again. We lost the second time we tried it. And then the third time, randomly, he became invulnerable. Like our hitboxes just did not connect with him at all.
Oh man.
So like, this is a game that is released for purchase in Japan, and we talk about like games are broken and all of that, right? There has been no patch. It is still the version that was released. Like, that's what Dale and I finished it on last night. The game has not been polished. So like, in some ways I understand
That's not polished, man. I mean, like, that's straight up like, we cannot progress from this point because of a broken like aspect of this boss fight.
I mean,
like, that's not just polish.
The biggest one, like, where we needed to shut down the full game in order to fix it, randomly we looped something that happened in the game. Like, it was me punching a pink Catgirl robot and Dale like sliding across the floor, and then as soon as Dale's slide ended, it would revert back like 6 seconds and re-show that footage. And we had no control over either of our characters. Like, I've never seen a glitch like this before, let alone in 2022. Like, I don't know what the game could have been being told, like what the go-to, like what the programming and code has to say for this to occur.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. And it sucked because like we were halfway through one of the big like buildings that you have to go through in the game, and we just lost all of our progress because of it. And it was frustrating. And then like, and those, that's the thing, is that like there were those frustrating moments, and in some way, yes, if you're really shooting for the nostalgia of the NES like era, glitches like that happened. But we you know, you can make fake glitches. Like, there's a whole sequence where you're going through a haunted woods.
Nobody thinks that a broken game is a nostalgia factor. That can't nobody's allowed to use that excuse.
But it's an argument that, like, I'm sure somebody, but wow, why don't we sell it as a feature? Right? The game might break on you.
Literally,
Enjoy.
it's not a bug; it's a feature. Yeah. I mean, you know, there are other elements to this without getting too deep into it, but like, you are playing on essentially a jailbroken system, right? Like, in order to play this game.
Well, so not jailbroken. It's just the fact that in Japan and other Asian countries, Arc System Works, who owns all of the rights to River City and everything that River City is about. So the Kunio-kun series, truly, right? That's what Arc System Works owns. They also own Double Dragon, because if you play Double Dragon Neon or Double Dragon 4, Arc System Works comes up as one of the publishers on it. And really it's just because they're licensing out their characters to make the game. But you get credit for that. You own the characters, right? It's what Disney does. It's what Marvel was doing with things like Universal and their movies. So it makes sense that they would get that credit. So then this game, which is wholly developed in America by WayForward, an American company, they deliver it to Arc System Works for distribution in Japan, and they're like, yeah, we're going to distribute it. The game is done as far as we're concerned. But then you also have to wonder, did they just think that it was done because WayForward told them the game is done, you can release it?
Right,
like,
right.
Where is the disconnect in that? And honestly, I was talking with some other people about the game. Can you think of another game that was developed in America and then released outside of America first?
I mean, I don't follow that sort of stuff, but I would assume it doesn't happen often.
Yeah, like we can name 1,000 examples of games that were released in Japan and then localized for the US.
Right.
Like, the fact that the game has not even been released in North America yet and has been localized for Japan and other Asian-speaking countries.
Well, I mean, and then so kind of to the point earlier about why it was held back. I mean, maybe it was not so much this stuff with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because it sounds like there's a lot of other problems going on with this game that maybe they were wise enough to say, we cannot release the game in this state. God knows what it looked like 4 months ago.
Right, exactly. I mean, but by all accounts, what they showed, but then that was all running on PC. It wasn't on console. and it doesn't have to. It has to run on like 3 separate consoles, and we're seeing that with Callisto Protocol right now, where like the PlayStation version runs really well, but it doesn't run great on PC or Xbox.
Well, and you heard the big thing with that, right? Is
Yeah,
that part of the issue is that apparently PlayStation had to come in and help like finish the game.
yeah,
And so a lot of people are arguing whether or not that they quote unquote sabotaged, but I don't think that's what it is. I'm more in the other camp, which is they clearly optimized it for the system that PlayStation would have been optimizing it for, and it's not PlayStation's responsibility to optimize it for the other systems. Like the story behind Callisto Protocol is a wild one as well, but it is exactly that idea of like it's optimized for 1 out of 3 systems, but then they released it on all 3. So what are you doing?
so exactly, right? Like you should try to optimize it for everything, and it's just this weird thing. But based on all of the account and footage we've seen being on PCs, it seems like it's optimized for PC,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
really for all these consoles and the various types of chipsets that they have. Which it's just a thing to notice. And while Callisto Protocol's out there, and it's not that it's jailbroken. The thing that I had to jailbreak was signing up for a Japanese account. The game itself comes with English language options, both subtitles and voices, because the real reason why the Japanese version was delayed from the summer release was so that they could localize it and take the script and write it in Japanese and record all of the Japanese voice acting.
But when you are starting up the game, doesn't it have to send out a regional ping of any kind, or does it not need to do that?
I am
I
not
guess,
online at all. We played it. I specifically shut off online.
yeah,
My
yeah.
Japanese account is just the primary account on the system that we're playing it on, so it doesn't need to send out anything that says,
Okay, this is the kind of stuff
yeah,
that it's cool that this game is allowing this, but more and more games are not allowing you to do offline like play, even if it's not an online game, specifically so that they can combat stuff like this,
yeah,
where they can ping where you are to make sure that you have the legal right to be playing your game. It's a shitty use of DRM. I'm not supporting it in any way, but this would be a prime example as to why they are trying to do that.
yeah. No, I agreed. And really weirdly, like in the Discord, it kind of felt like they were encouraging it. Like, if you guys are able to get it, go ahead and get it. Play Asia has physical copies for sale. So it's been an experience. That's the big thing of it. But what I really want to talk about in the game, right? And I don't want to go like too far off, is so it's 6 different main characters in the game, right? Misako and Kyoko from the first game are there. You can still play as them. Kunio and Ricky, their boyfriends that they were saving in the first game, they're unlocked from the beginning. And then as you progress through the game, you're able to unlock 2 additional characters. One is Pruvi from River City Ransom Underground. She's a break dancer. And the other one is Marion, who is the girl who was always kidnapped in the Double Dragon games.
Okay.
So some stuff there, right? Now, I was excited to play as Marion because I've played the Double Dragon games, and it's like, oh, it's going to be really cool to finally get to play as her and not have her be the damsel in distress, especially since the Double Dragons have essentially been downgraded to shopkeepers in the River City Girls universe. They've had another downgrade too, but I'm not going to talk about it on the show. Sejohn knows, and I'm pretty sure if you know me, you know what I'm talking about. So it was cool getting to play as Marion. And Dale was excited to play as Provy because she really liked playing as Provy in River City Ransom Underground. So our whole goal when we set out was, let's unlock these 2 characters. And that's another weird thing about the game too, is it's open world, but the way they talk about it is, so you'll get to choose whether you want to unlock Provy or Marion, and then the game will progress, and then you'll come up to the point where you can unlock the other one. That's not really the case. I would like to report that, for starters. After you clear the first section of the game, you're given the option to go to Uptown or Downtown. If you go to Downtown, it culminates in a boss fight against Marion, where you unlock Marion. And if you go to Uptown, it culminates in a boss fight with Provy, and you unlock Provy. And then the game highly suggests where you should go next, but you can just use the fast travel system to go to the other location and unlock the other character. So the game is not like, it doesn't lock you into finishing the goal that Marion gives you once you free her. Ditto for Provy. Like, it's an open world game, so you can kind of do whatever you want.
Yeah, yeah.
So that whole thing exists. So then Dale and I wind up unlocking the two characters and then setting off as these two, putting aside Kyoko and Misako and Kunio and Ricky. I would never really want to play as Kunio and Ricky in a River City Girls game. It seems kind of counterproductive to the entire like narrative and concept. I don't know. But one of the things is, in the first game, only Kyoko and Misako had voice lines, and they're trumpeting everybody has voice lines in this game. The problem is everybody was given the same script and told to record every line of the script. And that's really weird.
Are there characters like talking about characters in ways they shouldn't be and shit like that?
So Skullmageddon, the main antagonist from Double Dragon Neon, which is a way forward game. It's very good. It was on Game Pass. If you have never played it, give it a try. It runs a little slow because it's trying to ape Double Dragon. Just know that. He is now a shopkeeper in the River City Girls universe, and you find him. And you mentioned that you're following up on a lead from Marion. That's why you're in the woods. And he acts all crazy about, like, oh, Marion, because he kidnapped her in Double Dragon Neon, right? I'm there as Marion. And first of all, she does not remember Skullmageddon. She doesn't have, like, a snarky comment to him about the fact, like, oh, like, when you kidnapped me. And then, I don't know if I sent the photo out to you. I think I might have. I sent it out to... where Marion is asking about, and let me guess, you kidnapped Marion to try to impress her?
I was going to ask why she was referring to herself in the third person in that shot. I thought it was just a character choice.
No, it's because that line was probably initially written for Misako. Especially, like, Dale and I know the characters pretty well, right? Having played through the first game as much as we did. So there were a lot of times like, well, that sounded like a Misako line coming out of this person's mouth. Mm-hmm. And that sounded like, with like the whole read of it and everything in the direction of it was like, and let me guess, you tried to kidnap Marion to impress her? Like, it just seemed like that matter-of-fact sort of thing. And then coming out of Marion's voice, like, well, that's really strange. But then, as we progressed further into the woods after that thing, they introduced this whole fucking thing where apparently there are two Marions. One of them is a doppelganger created by magic. And I guess it's to, like, combat the fact that New Game Plus, you could fight the Marion fight. You could fight against Marion. And it's just like, but it's so weird that so deep into it, they're like, oh crap, what if Marion is there talking about herself? Like, why would
you should have established this when you first unlocked her? Like there should have been like some moment of like,
it should have been
establishing,
Marion,
oh my god, my clone or something.
Real Marion should have come in after we beat her and like punched her to the friggin' moon. And then like, I'll join you guys because I want to know who cloned me.
Yeah, right. Just something ridiculous like that.
It's already an over-the-top game where you got frickin' skeletons, and one of the whole drives of the game is that your social media accounts were hacked and you were embarrassed online. Like that's like one of the plot points of the game that gets you involved in it. It's like it's so incongruous in all of these ways. And then the last thing that I did, one of the reasons I was a little bit late starting to record this morning, is Dale and I started the game as Kunio and Ricky to see if they might have unique voice lines, right?
Right.
And no, it is the exact same stuff that Kyoko and Misako say to each other. And interesting to me, right, is the fact that all of the lines that went to Kyoko now go to Kunio, who is Misako's boyfriend, significant other, and all of Misako's lines go to Ricky. So, like, if you're playing with them as, like, you're with Kyoko and Ricky, they're going to, like, sound like bickering people who are dating. But then, like, it puts a weird connotation to the conversation if it's just Kunio and Ricky having that conversation, or Kyoko and Misako.
Or Kunio and Misako, or like Marion and Misako. Like, you can play in any combination of these characters.
Yeah, it's
Oh
really
man.
weird. And it also like Dale basically played this game under protest, right? And she made her protestations known the whole time because we watched an IGN video of the devs reacting to a speedrun of River City Girls, and they were not kind to the characters. Is sort of the nicest way that I can say it. Again, I'm
Mm.
not Dale. I can't read it. But she felt that they were being really misogynistic, kind of judgmental, and talking down about these characters who mean a lot to Dale, right? These strong, badass females. And they're like, oh, yeah, they're just these silly, stupid girls who end up taking down the Yakuza, right? They don't know how to fight. They just like watched wrestling and they emulate that. And it's just like, oh, that's weird. It's like you guys hate your characters,
Yeah, yeah.
is the way that
That
she
doesn't
took
sound
that.
great.
So then when you roll it forward into the next game and literally everybody's recorded the lines, are you saying that like just all women are interchangeable as characters, right? Like no one needs their own unique characterization?
I mean, let's remind everybody that this is the where the first game that ended, it was revealed that these two main characters were actually the
Like
bad guys,
like
right? Like because they were like swim girl-esque like hunting down these guys.
yeah, they were convinced that they were dating them and like, oh, we played it as a joke. And it was so offensive to people that they, in a later patch, they made it so when you beat up the girls who say we're their actual girlfriends, like, no, you've been dating them the whole time. And that's the storyline that this game picks up from. So if you never
Right.
got the hidden ending to River City Girls, you might be a little confused in the beginning of the game. Yeah,
I
right.
mean, that's been the case with old school beat 'em ups and video games for
Forever. Yeah,
forever,
that's a
right?
really good
If you didn't
point.
get the true ending, then you don't know the canonical story, or that's
Yeah,
nonsense. That's video game nonsense.
yeah,
But like to the point of Dale getting these weird vibes from these guys about the ways in which they treat these characters. I mean, we've talked about it from game one that there's been this really weird aspect to the ways in which they seem to really have a an issue with their own heroines.
yeah. And it's weird. And then like they kind of cranked that up to 11 to the fact that like I was getting tired of it where they're like you have to collect 15 coins in order to like go into the arcade. And when you beat the third one of the characters is like, all right, that's 20. No, I'm pretty sure that's 15. No, 5, 10, 20. And it's like, so you're not really good at math, are you? And it's like, okay, so that could be like just a comedical interaction, but also none of them are good at math, right? Depending on the combination, and then depending on what the computer determines who's going to aside to which side of the conversation. Because that's
Yeah.
when Dale and I noticed it, is that we were doing a mission where you had to escort an EMP device, a living EMP device. And the first time we got there, it was Marion who started the conversation and Provy who responded. The second time we got there, it was Provy who started the conversation and Marion who responded.
And it
And
didn't
that
have
was
anything to do with like who was playing first player, second player, or anything like that.
nope. I played first. I played 1P the whole time. Dale played 2P the whole time. So it's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like
man.
it randomly chooses. So like even then, you can't have like any sort of distinct character feeling to these people. I mean, we got the mission to find the cats that are missing in River City, right? And Dale was playing as Masako because we hadn't unlocked Provy yet. I was playing as Marion. And Marion was like, no, let's help her. Let's find these cats. While Masako's like, this is my hell. Hunting for cats is my hell. And then once Dale had unlocked Provy, Marion was the one who hated cats. And Provy was the one excited to be hunting them down. So, like, it just feels like, what are you doing? Like,
Weird. Just really weird.
it's just
There
like a
seems to be
really
no like effort in maintaining like a lore. Like wild.
yeah, it's just crazy. And I guess like and on the one hand, in the 80s, video games, that's just what happens. But like we're past that now, right? Like if you're going to try to do this
Yeah.
big lore in the game and you want to have these beautifully animated like manga cutscenes, like you need some consistency between the two.
There's a couple of things about that argument, right? Like this is what games were like back in the day is like first of all, you need to be making some type of commentary on that. Otherwise, like you're just using it as an excuse to be misogynistic about it. Like you don't get to say that after the fact. Like the and then to add to that, like Yes, and like, what does that mean? This is how games used to be. Like, and we don't, and we very purposely don't do that anymore. Like, I thought we were past this discussion. Like, it's just such a weird excuse to fall into.
Yeah, and it didn't feel great. So here's the fun part, right? Huge spoilers for River City Girls 2 at this point. I'm gonna tell you how to beat this game. That's what I'm about to tell everybody.
Oh,
Because
welcome to Devon's Gaming Corner.
this is how Dale and I beat the game. So just like the old game, the characters you're not playing at receive all of the monetary rewards that you get from clearing missions.
Mm-hmm.
Clearing pretty much the missions that are presented to you just to beat the game. The non-player characters for Kunio and Ricky wind up with $4,550.
Okay.
And just like the old game, there is a hidden shop where you can buy the bunny pin, which will make you really fast, and the tank pin, which will make you really strong, but also slow. And that slowness is counteracted by the bunny pin. So if you can afford both of these items, each with a $5,000 price tag, you can basically be able to move around normally and kill everything in at minimum 3 hits. Right?
Wow. Okay.
And
Okay.
they try to make it like this high number that it's difficult to achieve. They've added an item in the game called the smartwatch, which lowers the price of items in shop. Testing it out in shops, it is a 10% discount to everything that is available in the shops. Which, if you're pretty good at math, or if you're Marion in that one scene in River City Girls 2, I'll just tell you, 10% of $5,000 is $500, knocking it down to $4,500.
Nice.
I don't know if this is an issue with the first build and if it will go away eventually, but everybody shares from the accessory like storehouse. If you buy
So
an accessory as
long as you both own them, as long as one of you buys it, you both own them. So having two characters, nice.
$4,500. So we used Kyoko and Misako, who'd been sitting aside, and each had about $3,000 in their wallets to go buy one smartwatch, put it on Kunio and Ricky, went into the shop, were able to buy the 2 overpowered pins, and then just the final boss fight was like we beat him in 12 hits. And it felt pretty okay, is what I'm going to say. Because Dale was like, that was an anticlimactic ending. And I'm like, do you think it's because we put on the pins? And she's like, no, it's because the game just ended. Like, there was no build to that revelation of what happened at the end of the game. And I'm like, all right, cool. But yeah, that's just something that's in the game. And it feels like, I don't know, them not thinking it through. And the other thing is, I mentioned they watched that devs react to speedruns video. Let me tell you how the devs reacted to that speedrun video. They patched every fun little thing that you used to use as a speedrunner in this game. Like, they really reacted to make sure that this game could not be skipped in that same way. Now, did I still break the game a couple of times? Yeah. And in like ways that were beneficial to me. So I can't be mad about the times where it broke and it affected me, because in the volleyball mini game where volleyballs are raining down from the sky and can kill you in one hit, I was able to get to the other side of the net where volleyballs will never fall. And then the enemies just kind of crowded up at the net and my reach was long enough to kill them without any fear of getting hurt. And that felt good. That felt like a good thing that I did. I clipped through the world, and I was rewarded for it. As opposed to all the other times that I clipped through the world, and it meant game over. So I don't know. It's just one of those things. I wanted to share about the buttons and the way that the game came out now. I wanted to share this whole experience about, like, going into the Japanese store to download a copy of the game, and not being a finished version, and like wondering where the disconnect is there. I want to report, a lot of people are complaining that it's running at 30 FPS. My monitor has an FPS counter. It's a solid 60 the whole time. We did tests on that to see if that is. I think the reason it feels slow is like the narrative of the fact that we haven't fought or studied fighting for 2 months. It's like the basic, you lose all your power-ups at the beginning of the game.
Right.
And like one of the ways that they did that is to actually turn down the FPS until you start to develop your character again, which is a solution. But for people in this FPS obsessed landscape that is modern gaming, they're going to be upset about that. They're going to think your game is broken. Sort of like,
I mean, it's broken in other ways.
yeah,
That's going to also lead them to believe that maybe this is just part of it, right?
yeah. I don't know. But as we were like, and Dale and I, because we speedrun the first game, and so much of the first game is that like all the shops are the same location, and all of the items upgrade the same statistics as they did in the first game. It was very easy to be like, all right, so we buy the potato sticks because it's agility. We go to the tea shop, we buy all the tea because it makes us faster. And all we need to do is become fast. And then once you get fast, oh, it's not hard to move around now. It doesn't feel like we're moving sluggish because we've raised our speed stat. I don't know. I'm still probably going to play through it. I think I'm going to platinum it. I'm like 10 trophies away from getting the platinum.
It's just a good feather in the cap at the end of this story. After all of this, I think I'm going to platinum it. Oh, yeah.
Well, you know, it'd be weird not to. I mean, I still have the... I pre-ordered from Limited Run Games, so I'm going to get digital codes for it. So,
yeah.
I mean, I'm going to be able to download the US version.
Yeah, you've got to play the US version when it finally comes out and see if maybe what it is that they're working on putting just one giant patch out with the new one. You know, day one patch with the US release or something.
Exactly. I need to give the US version a shot and see if those issues are there. And also, I want to try it 4-player and online. Like, I can't turn my back on the fact that those are things that interest me about this game.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. After all of the fun that we had, even though it's only been really one time, I think we did it, but all of the fun that we had that night where we blasted through TMNT, like with what, like 5 other people or 4 other people, like that was so much fun. I was kind of thinking that if this one turned out to be a fun time, of giving it a shot because of the online.
Yeah, but again, the online is only 2-player, which is fine, but it's not the same as getting to play it with 6 people. I mean, I've had people, friend of the show, my friend CJ, he he played Mario Party with us that first time we got to play Mario Party together. So that's cool. Shout out to you because you're probably listening. He thanked me for kind of strong arming him into buy Shredder's Revenge because he's gotten to play it with like friends and family when they've been visiting at the holidays. So like it's something the Turtles have like almost universal appeal. So I understand why like that would be something you'd want to chase if you're also a beat 'em up game. But like then like there's a song with Mega Ran, and I know that Mega Ran has done Kunio-kun stuff before, but after hearing the Mega Ran like credits theme to Shredder's Revenge, it feels a little bit like did you get him to like try to be more like that other game? Like was he on the thing? Like
I mean, what you're pointing to is that it becomes kind of clouded in this whole thing where it's kind of hard to not separate it from the ways in which it's clearly trying to make those choices, and then you have to wonder that about everything, right? Yeah. And that even goes for all of the voice line stuff and the ways like there's so much outside context that it makes even the smallest thing in this game that seems to not be working for you seem like a larger issue because of all of everything else that's going on.
Yeah. And I do have to admit that, like, it is personal bias coming into it. But also, that personal bias is why I jumped over the hoops to get to play it as soon as it was actually available. I don't want it
I think when your bias
for me.
is
like,
such a large fan, I think that you were kind of in a prime position to forgive a lot of things in this game. I mean, you know, yes, sometimes those we love, we can be as our harshest critics, right? Like that's like yes, there is that element to it that you do have to consider. But if anybody I know was going to really kind of like forgive stuff in this game, I think that would probably be you.
Right. I mean, I will say the whole tutorial section of this game felt like a friggin' mess. The fact that like you're back down to 0, you have none of your moves and you're moving real slow because you haven't bought the food stuff and things, that was unpleasant. But it pays off, right? Yeah. Because the boss that you fight at that like really weakened state, that first boss, it was difficult. Dale and I had some difficulty with it, but it's a very well-designed boss. Like I cannot fault how they designed the boss as it reflects the world and everything there. But then that boss is also the 6th boss, and we freaking destroyed him. Like, and this was before we did the pin tech, you know? This was just us based on everything we had done to develop our characters up to that fight. It is literally a carbon copy of that first fight, but he has like two new ads who were there fighting you, and we wailed on him. So it actually was that like power fantasy you kind of want to see in a video game, where like I was so weak the first time, and now this
Yeah.
guy is a piece of piss.
Right, exactly. You want to get to that point where things feel a little OP sometimes. Like this, we talked about this just last week, right?
Yeah. And that was really cathartic. And I think that's why the final boss felt just so anticlimactic, is because it's like a guy from the shadows who you really haven't been dealing with this whole time, suddenly being like, now we fight. And it's like, well, the other fight meant something, right? Everything was building to us having that rematch against this guy and actually getting to finish the fight rather than having someone come in and stop it from ending. Like it that was great, and then it just all kind of went away. I mean, they also immediately following that, in one of the craziest things ever, the person who has been assisting you with missions the whole game double crosses you, and one of the double crosses that like does not feel like a betrayal of the game. Honestly, it kind of felt like it was coming from the beginning, like, well, I'm going to take advantage of you, and
Nice.
and how kind you are. And what they do to double cross you is, I've tied up 6 of your friends and strapped bombs to their chests. You have 15 minutes to find and defuse all of the bombs. Like, that was also like this real build moment.
Yeah.
And then
That's
like
intense. Yeah.
So then the final fight, and first of all, for the final fight, I'm already feeling bad because it is aping the 1,000-floor elevator from River City Underground, and then it is aping the design of the laboratory section from River City Underground. So I'm just like, really, like, you are starting to feel like your own game, and now here we are again, aping from this game, and then it just
At some point, you got to stop referencing stuff and establish your own shit, right?
exactly. And when one of the guys, I mean, here's the really crazy thing is, so Provy is a character, and then all of the other playable characters except for one, and I think it's just because I haven't been able to find him yet, or he may be the guy who works at Paymore, and they just gave him a different name. They're all like shopkeepers or people that you can interact with, and there's no unique lines from Provy to these people that she literally fought through hell with in a game. Like, you want to be so beholden to that game, but you also don't want to give fan service to that game. It's so strange. I don't know, but that's that. Here's the final thing: is don't jump through the hoops that I jumped through to play this game. That's what I have to say. The Japanese version is not in a finished state right now. Whether it's heart or it's shoes, I don't know the reason why. But if you wait for the North American release, hopefully you'll get a more complete package. And not just because it will have the 4-player co-op and the 2-player online. So wait for the North American version. When that's coming, honestly, after playing through the game, I couldn't tell you. They keep saying that they're going to release it by the end of 2022. I'm not going to hold my breath for that. Based on
Considering some of the stuff that you've mentioned, I have to wonder where they're gonna. And like we're acting like adding co-op, like online features and stuff are just like flipping a switch. That ain't no easy breeze either, right? So I mean, maybe you'll be playing it by Easter.
Yeah. And then when it comes out, if you like the game, if you like beat 'em ups, it's worth your time. If you know me locally, I will have physical copies, and I can come to you. I can let you borrow a copy. We will figure something out so you can play the game. But don't do what I did. Don't lie and say you're from Kyoto and then like figure out a prefecture that makes sense for you to download the game in, and then like figure out a way to get yen so you can buy it. Like, it was a fun experience for me. And that might be the other thing, is that my own River City adventure was so much more involved than what happened in the game, even with this
Devon
like
now owns
spanning
about
open
300
world.
yen worth of crypto, which isn't a lot, actually, if you know anything about the system, but he owns it.
Yeah. It was what was left over after I bought the game for 4,300 yen. So like, and also I say like the dollar is strong against the yen right now. So like fiscally all around, it seemed like the right decision. All right. So to end on a happier note, right? Sejohn, Now we're taking off the gloves now. Sejohn did not say the secret word this episode of the Say Report because it's the
okay.
secrets on 7. The secret word was Sedgwick, and I'm really proud of you, Sejohn, to be able to talk about Kevin Bacon without talking about Kira Sedgwick. I feel like, well, I mean, I bring it up because so much of he's been on a lot of talk shows lately, probably because of the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, and everybody brings up Kira Sedgwick. And I know that they're two famous people, and it's so rare for two famous like actors to create a relationship that then succeeds and goes on in like into, for right now, perpetuity. But like, you're here to interview Kevin Bacon. Like, you wouldn't ask Kevin Bacon about his wife if it wasn't Kira Sedgwick.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the format of the show. If you're on The View, that kind of shit would probably come up, right?
Right.
Or Regis and Kelly. Well, not Regis and Kelly anymore, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, it was Regis and Kathy Lee. That show was steamy.
And how about that Scion TC?
Thank you so much for a Frisky Dingo reference in this my time of need. Oh, every time. That's a good show. Katie Mulgrew, she covered on an episode of Regis and Kathy Lee once and had such steamy like chemistry with the person. I'll need to look up who it is. If
Ryan
you already
Seacrest?
know,
It
wasn't Ryan
Seacrest?
Seacrest. No, it was back when it was Regis and Kathy Lee. She sat in for Kathy Lee and just had this like.
Was it Regis?
It wasn't Regis. No, it was someone that they had acted in theater together, so they like had a shorthand. If you look up Katie Mulgrew, Regis and Kathy Lee, you'll probably get it. It's right before she got Voyager. Like it was like this weird between time, and she was just covering for Kathy Lee for a week. I'll have more information on that next week. I don't know why I thought about it.
I don't know either, but I'm excited to hear about this deep lore of Regis and Kathy Lee.
Oh, I mean, you need to understand, like, that was a show. The reason why my mother is so, like, buddy-buddy with Giovanni and Kim in the morning is because she, like, kind of got buddy-buddy with Regis and Kathy Lee with all their, like, you could send us in stuff and we'll read it on air. Like,
Amazing.
Dorothy Decker was read on air. She won a trip from them once. Crazy. There's lore from that show, and that's why I'm so sad that it is such a pale comparison to what it was back in the 90s.
I mean, daytime television is just in general just kind of not a thing anymore now, you know.
That's a good point. But that's not. I wanted to be more positive in this moment. So congratulations to you, Sejohn, for not bringing up Kira Sedgwick. Nice job. Thumbs up all around.
No, I thought it was really cute that like she kept calling and like and to kind of the point we were talking about how much Kevin Bacon just loves Christmas, right? Like it is like hugely important for him to be with his family and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
And then the fact that he understands, well, I can give these people a happy Christmas and then come home to you. Like that really worked too. I really dug that. Anything else that you want to talk about before we send this one away?
No, man. I mean, there's definitely some other stuff going on in the world that we need to keep an eye on. I don't know if anybody's been paying attention to what's been going on with the Smash World Tour stuff, but we were going to talk about that today. I asked Devon if it was okay if we did, and then like just yesterday, more shit came out about it. So I'm actually like still looking into what's going on. Long story short, Nintendo is not looking good in this situation, and I'm curious to see where it goes after their kind of response to the whole controversy. But as I said, more info coming on that going forward. If you are interested, there's some really good YouTube stuff fodder right now on like people just really hating on Nintendo because of the quote unquote Smash drama. But yeah, we should talk about that at some point because it's pretty big. Nintendo is getting real dumb with their like fan interactions.
I don't disagree, and I'm sorry that with everything that happened over the week, you need to understand, like, the reason why I was on, like, an hour of sleep is because all I wanted to do was finish that game before we recorded today.
No, of
My
course.
whole like thing changed. I want to talk about the mobile beta of Vampire Survivors that I'm currently engaged in. So that's something to look forward to next week. And the whole Smash World Tour thing, I'm all about talking about it, but like it's real difficult to report on things that are ever changing and evolving.
Well, and I
Like,
honestly, I'm not familiar enough with the scene to really have guessed that this was going to happen, but I guess this was clearly the next step was waiting to hear back from Nintendo to hear how things. I thought it was all said and done. They canceled this thing on these people. These people had canceled it. They were already sending money back, and people were already canceling plans. And then suddenly now, like I said just yesterday, Nintendo was like, "We never said to cancel it." And it's just like, okay, wait a fucking minute.
we
We
just
need to
said
go
that we were
over
going to
some stuff.
sue you if you
Yeah,
did it. We
yeah,
wanted the
essentially, is
money
it,
from
yeah,
you when we
yeah.
sued you.
Yeah,
Well,
like
how
I said,
dare
we
you?
need to let kind of the dust settle again now that it's been disrupted. So
Yeah,
I don't want to get
exactly.
too deep now.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about G4 TV while we're still in the shadow of G4 TV's collapse, right? The 3 hour documentary is coming, but not today. Oh, that's a crazy one. All right. So, if you would like to speak to the Say Report directly, if you have like things you want us to talk about, reactions to anything that we've said, you can find us on Twitter, assuming Twitter still exists, at the Say Report.
Or, if you have if you have any thoughts on the River City conversation, perhaps maybe even experience with this new game, depending on how you got a hold of it, reach on out to Devon at Devon D. Decker.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I'd like to talk to like-minded individuals because like Sejohn said, my bias helped me and I'm in this Discord and a lot of the people they seem to have forgotten that like it's a new game. It's going to feel like a new game in the beginning. Why
Yeah,
would they just have you overpowered? Samus loses her power-ups for a reason. And that's
yeah, yeah.
because if she had everything, there wouldn't be anything to do in Metroid.
That's not a fun game to play. There are stories in which Samus doesn't lose her shit. We don't play those stories because those stories aren't fun.
Yeah, it's very, very true. All right, Will, stop this madness and bring us home.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Sejohn Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.